So we'll get started. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our winter wellness workshop on this cold Sunday afternoon. It's cold, but it's sunny, so we should be grateful for the sunshine. I'm pleased to start off 2022 with the first of our monthly series of health and wellness workshops. Today, we are here with Dr. Jamie Epstein and Paul Chisholm. Dr. Jamie Epstein is from My Life Coaching Center in New York, and Paul Chisholm is from Plenty Nutritional Coaching. As we get started, just a few announcements. So just a quick disclaimer, all the information provided by us is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as medical advice or instruction. We're not here to diagnose or treat any medical conditions. For specific medical conditions, please consult with your doctor. And we will be happy to take questions after the presentation, so feel free to put your questions in the Q&A and in the chat, and we'll take them afterwards. We have plenty of time towards the end to answer any questions that you may have. So we'll get started. So today we're going to talk about the winter blues and discuss a few strategies of how we could deal with this. So the winter blues is actually something called seasonal affective disorder, or SAD. And it might be a type of depression, and it's related to change in the season. So some of the symptoms we may encounter is feeling depressed, losing interest in our daily activities, having low energy, having trouble sleeping. We might have changes in our appetite or our weight. We might feel a bit more sluggish or have difficulty concentrating. Or we might just feel sad or hopeless or depressed. So today we're going to talk about a few tips and strategies that we could help that could alleviate these symptoms. So winter wellness. Dr. Jamie Epstein is going to talk to us about our mental, emotional health. And he's going to discuss clinical hypnosis and hypnotherapy. Paul is a nutritional coach. He is going to discuss some nutritional myths and help clarify some of the confusions that we may get from the internet or hearsay. And I will discuss tips and strategies to boost your immune system. So we're going to get started. I want to welcome Dr. Jamie Epstein. Jamie, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Myrna, and thank you everyone for joining us. Today, I want to discuss a couple of things about hypnosis, hypnotherapy, and coaching, and how we can help you when you discover the SAD or the winter blues. It's something that a lot of people have when it comes around this time of the year. So again, at the end, feel free to ask questions. I'll be more than glad to help you. First slide, please. Consult regarding how hypnotherapy and hypnosis works. Basically, you want to work with an individual who's a certified hypnotherapist. And how that works is once they become certified, they're able to help you in a wide variety of areas and stuff. This particular session here, a person is doing what we call an intake to get a flow of understanding of what's going on with the winter blues or what's going on in your life that's affecting you to be sad, depressed, or have some kind of stress or anxiety. Next slide, please. In this particular session, you'll see where the clinical hypnosis, where I have a client who's in an altered state of awareness, basically, where I'm working with his unconscious mind. There's two things that are important to understand here: the conscious mind, the unconscious mind. The conscious mind does get you into trouble. What I mean by that is your unconscious mind knows it's true 100% of the time. What happens is the conscious mind gets in the way. But once we get the conscious mind out of the way, we can help a person go into a deep trance. In this particular first stage, you see this person is much more emotionally relaxed and physically relaxed, which helps the body begin to rejuvenate the energy. That's one of the things we do. We take away from the conscious area and put you in an unconscious trance that allows you to emotionally and physically relax. And at the end of that session, you wake up vibrant and jubilated. Also, we find that working with children in hypnosis play therapy is something that allows children to be aware of things that are around them. So we use a lot of play hypnosis and play therapy to encourage children to build, especially with ADD, ADHD, feeling sad, things of that nature. Next slide, please. In this particular situation, you see a client working with a person with disabilities. Remember, your body is a temple, and we can work with you no matter what type of disability that you have. And it's important to empowering this individual. Also, you'll find that empowering a child through coaching as you work through the person with the individual as they come out of the trance and also before the trance. We set up a session to understand what we need to work with. And through that trance state, we interject certain suggestions and allow that person to take charge. At any point in time, the person can come out of trance and have a coaching session, because what's going on in trance is totally up to them. They're the masters of faith. They're the masters of what's going on in trance state. Next slide, please. Milton H. Erickson, which is a psychiatrist, he's basically the former person who started hypnosis. And with Dr. Erickson was a psychiatrist, basically he was in a wheelchair. And he began to do interpersonal therapy. He was a trained therapist who worked with altered states and interpatient therapy, which I'm trained clinically and medically under the Ericksonian method. If you look in Arizona, you'll find it, the Milton H. Erickson Foundation, which is a very large organization of hypnotherapists. This particular trance state here in the second picture here, you see again, a person in a more relaxed and comfortable state. And what's good about that, it allows us to focus on what's going on when he's presented to us in a coaching session. And so as we take that information and begin to deliver it in a way through hypnotherapy, it allows that person to emotionally relax, moving away from the conscious problematic issues and behaviors. And we also look at how we can interject moving away from the fears. Next slide, please. Hypnotherapy coaching sessions is before you place a client into a trance state. Why? Because you want to establish what we call a safe place. And a safe place has to do with the adult part of them and the younger part of them. So in the coaching session, it allows them to be able to understand how we're going to work with them. And again, you can go into a deep trance, you go into a light trance. It doesn't make a difference. You can do the same amount of work in a deep trance or a light trance. So it really allows each person to have their own trance state and how they wish to do the work. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is Paul, Plenty Nutrition Coaching. I'm going to introduce you to Paul. I want to thank you for watching and listening to my particular part of hypnotherapy. I'm going to introduce you to Plenty Nutrition Coaching, Paul Chisholm, who's a well-known nutritional coach. I'd like to turn it over to now Mr. Paul. Paul, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Epstein. It's an honor to be here, talk to you people today. And I am specializing as a nutritional coach in the addiction community for those people who are trying to get their lives back on track by giving up substance abuse and trying to focus on a nutritional path. Today, I'd like to talk to you about nutritional myths. And I'd like to start out by saying, what is it about nutrition that seems to breed confusion and controversy? Contradictory studies that are rife with flaws and limitations. Messiness of the field is a big reason why nutrition advice can be confusing. So today I brought several slides, and there are many nutritional myths floating around. But today I brought several slides, basically true and false question and answers, and we can have some fun with it. So let's begin. First slide, please. Question 1, true or false? Is it okay to eat food past its expiration date? I'll give you a few seconds to ponder that, and we'll talk about it on the other side. Next slide, please. How many chose true? Fact is, the best before date is based on the food's freshness. The expiration depends on the freshness of the food, not its safety. You can eat foods past the sell-by date. Example, like dairy products, probably good for 1 week past its sell-by date. And other items like ground meat, poultry, probably 1 to 2 days past its expiration date. Next slide, please. So here we have the before dates. There are some points here. Nutritional facts. must be on foods that last 90 days or less, such as bread, milk, yogurt, eggs. It tells you the best before dates, the freshness and the quality of the food, not the safety. And it applies only to unopened foods. For instance, if you got cans of soup in your pantry that are hanging up there for months and it's way past the expiration date, which happens to be printed on the bottom of each can, if you've never really noticed it, you can eat it. You know, if you open it and smell it, I always use the smell test to determine whether it's really good to eat or it's suspect. So these are some of the guidelines that you want to look at past expiration dates. Next slide, please. Question 2, true or false? Olive oil has less fat than butter. Think about that for a few seconds and we'll talk about it. Can we have that slide, please? Answer is false. Fact, olive oil has a little more fat compared to butter. Both have 100 calories per tablespoon, olive oil and butter. Olive oil has a little bit more calories than butter, but basically, maybe have the next slide, please. But basically, the important thing to look at between the fat and the calories is the fat content, the type of fat. So here we have a nutritional fact. Olive oil, unsaturated fats. It's heart healthy and is used often more. Butter is a saturated fat, and it's usually suggested that we don't use it so much because it interferes with our heart. Replacing butter or margarine with olive oil could significantly reduce your risk of heart disease, says new research from the American Heart Association. Can we have the next slide, please? All right, so types of foods you could enjoy that are heart-healthy fats coming out of them. Salmon is one of them. A variety of nuts and seeds. Avocado is a good choice. Canola oil, sunflower oil, peanut oil, olive oil. These are some of the things that are heart healthy for our system. Can we go to the next slide, please? Question 3, true or false? Orange juice is high in sugars. Let's think about that for a few seconds. Okay, can we have the next slide? Fact, the answer is false. Orange juice has no added sugars and contains essential nutrients. And I'm talking about fresh oranges. 100% orange juice contains sugar that naturally develops as oranges grow on trees and no added sugars. The natural sugar in 100% orange juice comes along with a bevy of vitamins and minerals. Can we go to the next slide? So I mentioned there are sugars in oranges. There are 3 types of sugars to understand, nutritional fact. Natural sugars. Natural sugars are inside the cells of the foods we eat. Certain foods have sugars and they're inside the cells. These are what we call natural sugars. Free sugars, what is added to the food by the manufacturer or the consumer. Example, molasses, syrup, coconut sugar, maple syrup, things like that. Added sugars. Added sugars are added during the processing of the food. So if you looked at the food label and looked at the ingredients, you'd see things like words like sucrose, dextrose, sweeteners, syrup, honey, corn syrup, things like that. These are considered added sugars. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, so inside a glass of orange juice, these are the benefits of drinking orange juice. You get a whole host of vitamins and minerals, excellent source of vitamin C, folate, potassium, lutein, which is a flavonoid or an antioxidant that regulates the cellular activity and helps fight off free radicals that cause oxidative stress. It's great taste and they have no added sugars. Next slide. Okay, slide 4. Okay, true or false? Brown sugar. How many of you heard that brown sugar is better than white sugar? Brown sugar is better for you than white sugar? Take a few seconds to ponder that and we'll talk about it. Okay, can we go to that next slide? The answer is false. Brown sugar and white sugar are essentially the same. Contrary to common belief, they are both nutritionally similar. Brown sugar contains slightly more minerals than white sugar, but will not provide any additional health benefits. Here we go to the next slide. Okay, so white sugar versus brown sugar have the same number of calories. White sugar is made from sugar cane or sugar beets. Brown sugars has added molasses. Okay, next slide. Two other types of sugars, coconut sugar versus date sugar. Nutritional fact: coconut sugars, commonly known as palm sugar, is dehydrated sap of the coconut palm, which is illustrated in the diagram here on top. Has some trace minerals and it has inulin fiber. And inulin fiber helps slow the absorption of sweeteners into the blood system, thus stabilizing the amount of sugar in the blood. Date sugar. Dried dates are ground to powder. Has some minerals, potassium and calcium, and it does not dissolve in water. You can use date sugar as a sprinkling over some fruit, if you will, or something that you like to eat that's sweet, or might add some sweetness or texture to your meal. Next slide, please. Question 5, true or false? Sea salt has the same amount of sodium as regular salt. What do you think? Let's think about that for a second or two. All right, next slide. How many of you chose true? All types of salt have the same amount of sodium by weight. Can we go to the next slide? So what's the difference here? Nutritional fact. Regular salt, commonly known as table salt, comes from dried up sea lakes. It contains added iodine and it has a fine texture. Sea salt from evaporated seawater contains calcium and iron in very low amounts, and they're large by crystals. And the difference is one is in crystals and one is very fine. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, so how do we know how much salt to take in? Aim for 1,500 to 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day, which really equates to roughly a teaspoon of salt. So how do we figure out? So we look at the nutritional labels and we look for foods that are low in sodium, we'll say different things. Sodium reduced, less sodium, lower sodium. And we all can look at the percent daily value, which is illustrated with the check mark in the right corner. 5% or less is a little sodium, and above 15% is too much sodium. So in this particular illustration here, you see the daily percent value at 6%. It's above the 5%, so you're in the range. You're also getting per serving now. Per serving, in this case, there are 4 crackers here. So out of that, you're getting 150 milligrams or 6% of the daily allowed intake of sodium. And the more you eat, you do the math. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, nutritional myth number 6. Whole grains are high in fiber. What do you think? Take a few seconds. Let's go. Next slide. False. Not all whole grains are high in fiber. Next slide. Okay, so not all whole grains are high in fiber. So what is a whole grain to begin with? A whole grain means that you're getting all 3 parts of the grain itself. The grain is divided into 3 parts. You have the bran, which is the outer shell, has most of the nutrients you're looking for and need, the endosperm, which has very few nutrients and minerals, and the germ, which is the seed of the new plant. When they strip the brand, you are left with the endosperm, the middle part, which has the least amount of nutritional value. So it's always important to understand what whole grains are and how much you should be getting, which we will talk about in the next slide, please. Let's see. What does whole grain high fiber mean? High fiber means 4 grams of fiber per serving, Check the food labels, percent daily value, and aim for 25 to 38 grams of fiber per day. So in this case here, in the illustration, you got 28% fiber per serving or 7 grams. So you're well within the range. A minimum of 4 grams of fiber to 38 grams for a total daily value of fiber per day. So this is, but you have to read the labels. A lot of people don't read labels, but reading labels to find out exactly what is in the product is a very important thing. Can we have the next slide, please? Question 7, egg yolks. Egg yolks are not healthy for you. Take a few seconds to ponder that thought. Egg yolks are not healthy for you. True or false? Can we have that slide, please? False. Egg yolks contain valuable nutrients. They contain high levels of cholesterol, yes, but also provide a range of vital nutrients and health benefits. All right, the nutrients that we find in eggs: vitamin A, B12, D, E, iron, omega fats, 3, folate, and choline. And yes, it does have cholesterol. And if there's a cholesterol issue that you are having, you better get with your doctor and discuss what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing in terms of your cholesterol and your diet. Can we move to the next slide, please? Nutritional myth number 8, true or false? Meat is full of antibiotics. Next slide. The answer is false. The use of antibiotics is regulated and monitored. Can we go to that next slide, please? Okay. Here's an illustration. The antibiotics used is used and regulated and monitored. Farmers may use antibiotics to treat sick cows, animals, but there is a withdrawal period to clear all the medicine residue from the meat. So there's a process, and this is what we're saying. Some people will say there's a lot of antibiotics in the meat. By law, they should be monitored and regulated. So this is what we have. Next slide, please. 9, true or false? Most of the foods we throw out at home could have been eaten. Think about that for a second or two. Okay, slide, please. Slide. You skip one, yeah, okay. So the answer is true. 63% of the foods we throw away could have been eaten. And if you equate that in money terms, you're throwing away roughly about $1,100 a year. So it's estimated that 2.2 million tons of food is wasted yearly. That's a lot of food. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so nutritional tip. Let's reduce food waste. Here are some tips. Buy only what you can eat and what you need. Store food properly. Plan meals and use leftovers. A lot of people don't like to use leftovers, but that's part of the waste problem. Freeze, can, preserve foods. Practice FIFO, first in, first out. Keep an inventory list. And as an added bonus, there's a book about nutrition, about food waste by this family, the Gullop family, and it's online and it's called Rock What You've Got Cookbook, and it helps you through food waste and things like that. Last slide, please. Slide number 10, true or false? We need to drink 8 cups of water every day. Is that true or false? Next slide. The answer is false. We We can also get water from various foods we eat, fruits, vegetables, and beverages. So the key is to what? Stay hydrated. Women are suggested to drink 8 cups of water, or the equivalent a day, and men 12. The total water can come from many sources like cucumbers, lettuce, celery, things like that, broccoli, cherries, watermelon, spinach has a great amount of water content that you could use to hydrate yourself. And last, urine color check. Urine gives you an indication whether you are hydrated or dehydrated or not. So check the urine, look at the color, and if you're fully hydrated, it will be a pale yellow. And this marks the end of my presentation. And at this point, I'd like to welcome our next speaker, Myrna Tamal, Life Compass, Health and Wellness. Myrna.
Thank you, Paul. That was very insightful. Thank you for clearing up some of the common myths that most people may have. So to continue, I will just tell you a little bit about myself. As Paul said, I am from Life Compass Health and Wellness. I'm a research scientist, a holistic nutritionist, and a health and wellness life coach. So I've been in science for over 25 years, but now I am integrating my science background with my passion for holistic nutrition and complementary alternative medicine. And I like to practice the principles of natural healing, which basically is first, do no harm, harness the healing power of nature, identify the root causes, treat the whole person rather than the symptoms, be a teacher, and work on prevention. So we're going to talk about boosting our immunity today. In wintertime is a cold and harsh season, and we tend to have drier skin. We're more prone to getting colds and flus. We might experience stress or despair. With the less sunlight, we might experience the sad symptoms because we get less vitamin D, and we might also have changes in our sleep pattern. So some of the tips we could discuss today, how to boost your immune system. I want to talk a little bit about your digestion system. So as people may or may not be aware, 80% of your immune system is in our gut. So during the winter season, with the lower temperatures, our internal heat of our body is lower, and this in turn slower our metabolism. And this affects our microbiome, or the healthy gut bacteria in our systems. They do not like colder temperatures. So this can lead to more sickness over time. So some things we could do to combat this is eat healthy winter veggies and greens, and I'll discuss some herbs and spices we could also use. So what are the foods in season? So I believe it's important to recognize what is available in the season. And the reason why is they are more packed with nutrients. This is their time that they grow. They're readily available in the stores. And if you get from farm to market, they tend to be cheaper. So some of the root vegetables that you can eat, and they're great for making stews and soups, carrots and potatoes, sweet potatoes and beets. The winter greens are your kales and mustard greens, and your winter squash, Brussels sprouts, etc. And it's important not to eat food cold or raw during this time of year. As I said, our metabolism and our heat in our bodies are lower. Paul mentioned butter and healthy saturated fat. So ghee is basically clarified butter, which is a healthy option for your gut. And basically clarified butter is just heating up the butter while it's being processed and removing the fat content on the top of it. So you get the healthier version of the butter. Some of the fruits that are common and great with the season are grapefruits and oranges and apples, bananas and pears. And some of the berries, although they're not in season, they're still available. And you utilize them for vitamin C and antioxidants. And you can also eat lean meats such as turkey and chicken. So since we are still dealing with a pandemic, I figure I would discuss a few of the key minerals and vitamins that can help with our immune system. So zinc is great for boosting your immune system, help with wound healing as well. And you find this in seafoods and lean meats, whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds. We have vitamin C, as I mentioned, in certain fruits and vegetables, and they're great for oxidative stress, which is basically helps with chronic inflammation. We have iron, which is found in your leafy greens, is also great for immune system, vitamin A, vitamin B, and vitamin E. So what are some of the spices and herbs that we can use to help with our metabolism? Ginger is great because most of these herbs, actually all of them, have multiple benefits. So ginger is great for your cholesterol and reducing inflammation. It's great as a hot tea or tonic. If you have a cold, it'll clear up your sinuses and relieve congestion. Cinnamon is one of those warming herbs, and it also helps with lowering your blood sugar levels, as does cardamom. Turmeric is a super herb which does many things, and you can make a turmeric tea as well and add ginger to it and clove and spices as well. And this helps with boosting your immune system, lowering your blood sugar levels, reducing inflammation, and also increasing your metabolism. So over on the right, you can see there are a few recipes that you're welcome to try to utilize some of these herbs. So it's also great to stay hydrated. Paul mentioned, we need to stay hydrated, and we could also do this by making herbal teas in the winter, which has multiple benefits. As I said, boosts the immune system, helping with inflammation, keeping you warm. So ginger tea is great for that, with chamomile tea, tulsi tea for calming effects at night to help with sleep issues. Turmeric tea, you can make a turmeric milk at night, which is also very calming and soothing and warming to help with sleep. Hot lemon water in the morning helps boost your metabolism and get you started for the day. Another favorite of mine is masala chai tea, which is a blend of at least 5 to 9 different spices, and it helps with boosting the immune system as well. And it's also important to exercise during the winter months. I know the weather is colder and we tend to not want to do things and feeling sluggish, but doing some basic exercise stretches in the morning or going for a walk will actually help change your mood and increase your energy level. So if you do go out, just make sure you stay warm and dress appropriately. So exercise is still do during this winter season. So this brings us to the end of our seminar, and we'll be happy to take questions. Just to summarize, I think we should start with your why, like what's going on with you and what do you think is the reason? And once you identify that, you can set a goal, like what can I change? Do I need to get more sleep? Am I dehydrated? And start with one thing at a time and have a plan of action. And you could track your progress weekly. And then you can always revise and readjust. And then when you do accomplish something, it's important to celebrate your success. We tend to dwell on the negative a lot or what's not working, but sometimes we lose sight of what is actually going right. And that's important for our emotional and mental well-being as well. And you just keep going with time and practice, everything gets better. And if you do need an accountability partner, you could reach out to one of us or a friend, or, it's a process and we all need assistance, and you don't have to do it all alone. Just a few announcements upcoming. We have our next workshop in February. We are going to do a New Year's reboot. the beginning of the year, everyone tends to set goals about what they want to accomplish, and then they tend to fall short as, January comes to an end. So we're going to discuss some tips and strategies to help you stay on track and make progress for the new year. And just to tell you a little bit about some other things going on, I have a Pathway to Wellness program, which is a 4-part series. As I mentioned, the principles of natural healing, identifying the root causes. You'll learn tips and techniques. We're going to focus on nutritional health, and we'll develop a roadmap and a plan to get you started on your health goals. And this brings us to the conclusion, and we'll be happy to take questions. Thank you for your attendance. Just a few promos we have. I have packages, and if you could get a discount if you enter winter on my website, and is listed there. I also offer free 15-minute consultations. And so there's Dr. Jamie Epstein, and you can reach him at My Life Coaching Center, ny.com. And Paul, you can reach him at Plenty Nutritional Coaching. He offers a 30-minute free consultation as well. So thank you everyone for attending.